Hello and welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this month's Snack and Chat. Very special March break edition for those of you in Ontario. This month, we are talking about from burnout to balance, asking for help as parents and caregivers, which I think is actually pretty good timing right now because I'm sure most of us are feeling the mid-March break pressure. My name is Catherine, for those of you who don't know me, and I am your community engagement liaison with Adopt for Life, a not-for-profit charitable organization that provides peer support, community, education, advocacy, and awareness to adoption, permanency, kinship, and customary care communities across Ontario. I do just want to give you guys a little bit of a heads up that it is March break for us as well. So we may have some background noise. I'm not too sure if you can hear some in my background right now, but please know that everyone is occupied and they're good, but we may just hear some noises and kids having fun, or may get some guest appearances. So I just wanted to throw that out because I started hearing some background noise myself. So back to the snack and chat. We do want this to be an engaging conversation with all of you. So whether you are watching live with us right now or on replay, we want you to feel free to comment, to discuss, share your thoughts, and of course to ask questions. We will do our best to answer everybody, but please know that if we aren't able to answer live, you are more than welcome to email us at info@adoptforlife.com. And our producer, Chantel, she can put the email address down for us for everyone who wants to follow up afterwards. We do want to make sure that you are aware that this webinar is shared across our public platforms, which means that your comments are going to be publicly available. We ask that you remain mindful when sharing information, including anything personal or specific information around the identities of minors. Now, before I formally introduce our snack and chat guest, I would like to take pause and acknowledge the lands that we are situated on today. I am very much aware that we are coming from different parts of this beautiful province and beyond. I personally reside in the traditional territory of Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Ojibwe, and the Mississauga of the Credits people within Treaty 19, now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations, and as a first step at improving our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures, to recognize and acknowledge the historic and ongoing devastating effects of colonialism and racism in the name of assimilation across Canada, and to consider how we can, in our own ways, action forward in a spirit of truth, reconciliation, and collaboration. I now have the pleasure of introducing our guest, Cindy. Cindy is Adopt for Life Regional Parent Liaison in the West or Western regions. So thank you so much for coming, Cindy. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And especially on March break, I know it's a little bit tricky, but I mean, we both really felt this was a really important topic to talk about. So I think, which is why we both wanted to be here. So Cindy is an adoptive mom to 3 incredible humans who joined her family through foster care. She has gained much awareness, insight, and strategies in living with the impacts of neurodevelopmental disorders associated with prenatal alcohol exposure, fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, trauma, loss, and grief. She knows how hard parenting complexities can be and is finding more compassion for herself along the way. Professionally, she has recently returned to the practice of occupational therapy, combining her lived experience in private pediatric clinic. She has also become a trust-based relational intervention practitioner. That was a mouthful. Or TBRI is better saying. TBRI practitioner. As a parent liaison, she understands the benefits of peer-to-peer support and is looking forward to connecting with families. So if you are one of our families across the West, I'm sure you have connected with Cindy, or if you're newer to Adopt for Life, you get to see one of the lovely faces of our parent liaisons who are doing a lot of the hard hands-on work with our families. So thank you very much once again. I take a lot of time talking, so are you good if I just jump into some of the questions?
Yes, please do. Please
Amazing.
do.
Okay.
Thanks, Catherine.
This is such an important topic, and I think that it's one that's actually come up more frequently for a lot of our families. So we thought, you know what, let's actually take the time and have a discussion about it and realize we are not psychologists or psychiatrists. So we're coming from our own personal experiences.
Right. Yeah.
Just we're trying to have a discussion to help people know that it's okay to reach out for help. So the first question I have is why is it important? So why is it important to talk about parent and caregiver mental health?
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Catherine, for letting me share. And I just want to say hey to everybody out there. And in this, environment of talking about support mental health, shoot me out your positive vibes. I'm asking for support right away. I think for me, Catherine, mental health really influences my everything. It really is one of those things that influences my capacity. So if my mental health is okay, I have more capacity. But if I'm struggling, I'm finding it challenging, then I have less capacity. And I really liken it to our vehicle. It's a journey, and I love that it's called a journey. And we've actually lovingly named her Pearl. So when Pearl is filled up, she's filled up with gas, she can make this 16-hour journey to our happy place. But if she has no gas, she's empty. Well, we can't even make it to our local grocery store, which is like 5 minutes away. So we can't even meet our basic necessities when she's empty. And I really liken that to my own mental health, that when my mental health is well, then I'm able to handle some more things. I have more capacity. And specifically to parenting, it's the same thing. When I'm well, I have more capacity to be present with my peeps. And when I don't, my mental health is struggling, I sort of funnel in and have less capacity.
I can completely resonate. I love that metaphor and the connection to cars because we take care of our vehicles.
Right.
We only get one car type of thing. If you're told you only get one
Right.
car, you do everything you can to take care of it and to
Mm-hmm.
make it last long. So I really love that analogy that you're using. I think we should all name our cars now. What other
Are
people
we like the only ones? I don't know. Yeah.
know.
We always name our cars.
I love it.
Yeah.
So when we're kind of reflecting or thinking more about like adoptive, kin, and customary care families, I'm wondering your thoughts of kind of how common is it for families like ours to need mental health supports?
Sure, yeah. I was thinking about this. I think, like anybody else, like this life can sometimes be really hard. And I don't know about all of you, but when I thought on, my when I grow up plan, there are things that have happened that absolutely were not in that when I grow up plan. And then when we talk about capacity to parent, it's super important for me to parent well. These incredible humans that, I get to call family, it's important for me that I have that capacity. And then how we became family, it's been exceptional. It's an exceptional way. So when you combine all of those things, um, it's become really important for me to honor those differences, not just for me, but for them as well. We're talking about so many exceptionalities. So, this incredible loss, just that incredible loss of that severed primary attachment. And then our family, we also experience other exceptionalities like neurodivergence. So it's become really important for me to honor those things. And somewhere along my parenting journey, someone had sort of given advice about don't think about the what ifs, and sort of this idea that is it possible that it'll happen? Yeah, it could be possible. Is it probable? No, it's not probable. And really, I understand the intent of that sharing and I get it. But in thinking about that, as I started to parent, I became super confused right away. So, why wasn't my infant settling with, a well attached, sort of attuned type of caregiver? Why? Why were our daughters being labeled with behaviors and labeled as bullies when we weren't experiencing that in home? So, I just became super confused. And it wasn't really until I started honoring some of those things about us that it started to make sense that we were parenting probable. And so, as an RPL, I'm speaking with families. It's not uncommon for others to also be parenting probable, to share similar experiences, and to ask for some mental health support. And so, and here's the thing, that I really wanted to share too, that I've learned recently is that our load as a family hasn't changed significantly for quite some time now. And I don't anticipate that it will significantly. But with this balance, with this mental health, my own focusing on that, the impact of our load is less on me.
And I think it's just so important for us to validate those experiences and to know that it's okay to reach out. And I don't know how many times when my role was in RPL, I'd have families reach out saying they're so scared to tell their CAS worker
Hmm.
that they're
Hmm.
struggling.
Sure.
So I think having groups like this and having conversations like this where we validate, where we're saying, yes, it's okay. There's others who are feeling the same.
Yeah.
And, let's work on what strategies or what works for you is really important. So I really appreciate you sharing a bit about your journey, but also just normalizing that experience
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's not one or two people. And I'm sure it's a lot more common. I'm sure if we looked up stats, we can find some really high numbers up there, but a lot of families are feeling that. And this isn't just adoptive and kinship and customary care,
Right, right. Yeah.
parenting in
Parenting for
general.
sure,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, so for like there's families watching this right now and parents and caregivers, I'm just wondering what are some of the signs, um, that it's time to try and get that support. I'm wondering if that's something you experienced.
For sure. And, really becoming aware, being mindful of how I am responding when I'm stressed has become significantly important. So, what are some of the things that happen with me? I am a fighter. So, when I get stressed, it's more less, it's I work harder, I push myself, I sleep less. And, that's what I do. I become super hyper focused. And I then sort of detach from everyone, right? I'm so focused on what's in front of me, I'm less present. And Tanya, our psychotherapist at Adopt for Life, she has shared the webinar with us. I've found really helpful in my own learning to understanding my own nervous system, titled Get to Know Your Nervous System the Polyvagal Way. So that was like a huge part of my continued learning about my own nervous system. One of the telltale signs for me, when I know that I'm becoming stressed or I'm going to need some extra support around that, is when I run, I don't look up to the sky. I just pound pavement and focus, right? Now, my husband is a freezer. So he also becomes sort of detached and focus on that, but without the fight. So I think it's really important for us to recognize our own responses to stress and, some of those mental health considerations, but that others may not be experiencing similar, stress sort of behavior responses. So can you imagine that, a fighter and a freezer married? Like that's a whole other topic for another.
That's next month's snack. No, I'm joking. And it
the
was
next.
actually really interesting. Like as you were sharing that, uh, um, I'm a flight.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
back off.
Sure.
I sleep more. I stay in my bed and I huddle and I just disassociate from
Yeah.
everything and I just can't function. So I have to detach from everything, even my daily care. I just don't shower for a week
Yeah.
and I just
Yeah.
hide. And it's interesting because like you mentioned, like you have to kind of know your signs, and sometimes I'm
Yeah.
so deep into it that I
Yeah.
don't realize, but which is why you need to have that support system. And so there's been
Right.
many times where my friends and family have lovingly called me out saying, all right, we gotta,
Something's going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah. It's
And I
okay.
do
Yeah.
just want to say the polyvagal webinar that you shared, that's going to be shared in the comments. So if you're watching right now live or even on replay, you can just go ahead into the comments and click the link to watch the webinar. It was amazing. I
Yeah.
really, really got a lot out of it myself too.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, I derailed our conversations.
No, it's all
Sometimes it
good.
happens.
It's all good, Catherine.
Um, so yeah, so it's just really important to know what your signs are and just know that for me, it was building that community because when I first had people call me out, I was so offended. What do you mean? I'm fine.
Right.
But you have to know they're coming from places of love and building that community around you to know that it's okay that when you do fall apart, when you do have the fight, flight, or freeze response, that there's people around you to help support you through it and to pick up the pieces as well.
Yeah, exactly, Catherine. And I think that, sort of circles back to your point about normalizing, right? Mental health and how impactful it can be. Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I kind of talked about it a little bit in like that community piece, but
Mm.
I'm wondering like what does support look like?
All of the above, it's it's this plethora of things. So, proactively, I've put in place a lot of things to support me in my everyday, sometimes moment by moment, right? So I think that's really important. Pound pavement, some call it jogging, yoga, stretching, exercises, talking with a friend, brushing my teeth. Like those are all part of supporting my mental health, as small as some of those things, but proactively and routinely for me has become really important. Again, that, mindfulness. And I did want to share that, although I'm a fighter and I usually push myself, I had this, aha moment just a couple weeks ago where my body was super taxed. I knew it. My mind was super taxed. I knew it. And I was supposed to run that morning. And I just went, you know what? It is going to be too expensive for me. So I met my need in a different way. And my need was to move my body because that's supportive, but just walked with my husband instead. That's the first time in such a long time. But I put my mental health more as a priority in that situation. So, those proactive sort of things. I also have given myself permission to just special little things for myself. So, like, I bought tulips the other day. I always make sure that around the holiday season, I buy a live centerpiece just for me. I spend that little bit of money just for me. I have this inexpensive white shag carpet. Imagine, like in my office space that no one's allowed to go on.
That's brave.
I know. But these are all like just really things that bring me joy, that really speak to my authentic self. And our provincial parent liaison in our AFCA series, those really short caregiver support trainings, and episode number 4, it's called Restorative Time. She really touched on that. Reflecting on what are those things that bring joy to our authentic self, and spending time and effort and intention on some of those things. And then support again for us is this plethora of things. So it could be really practical things. And I sometimes think, instead of that funnel, the flexibility helps open up options. So our our like our dishwasher and our dryer died at the same time. I don't know if other people that happens with appliances, but it tends to. So I just like reached out on Facebook. I didn't share with family and friends who it was for, just that there was a need, because being that specific would be too taxing on me. I wasn't okay to reach out for support that way. And I put that need out there, and a friend came alongside. We have a new to us dishwasher and dryer. And that has absolutely helped our load. Get it? I use the word load. Sometimes it's other practical help like financial assistance. So I, just recently put out a text to our immediate family and friends. We had a specific financial need, and I shared only what I felt I needed to share. And again, honoring and how I'm asking for that. So it's all of those things, like in the everyday, some of those practical things that you can meet to help with some of that load, some of that mental health, supports. And it can also include private counseling, medication, through a physician, receiving the support from a creative, like this whole creative supportive network that we have in place now. And in ours, it's the FASD worker, student service counselor, a nurse practitioner. So yeah, all of the above, Catherine.
And I do apologize if my puppy is very interested in this subject. Um, but I just want to say how incredibly brave it is to reach out. That word of just as brave as it is for you to have a white carpet with children, it's equally as brave to reach out for that help, because I think we have so much guilt around that.
Mhm.
And I find, and at least in my experiences as an adoptive mom, it's like I put myself at such a higher standard that I should be able to handle. I should be doing this, or I could be doing this, and I don't want anyone to feel or see or view or judge me as not being enough or not being
Yeah.
able to do it.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely, right? Yeah.
so in our case, like a lot of our support is like physical one-on-one support. So we typically have 3 adults in our house because we have children with multiple needs. So having someone in our house, like a PSW every night to give my daughter dinner, she needs full support, gives her a bath, puts her to bed. I had so much guilt for so many years allowing someone to do that. Now that I've kind of gotten over, and I feel like I had to clean my house before people came or else they would judge. But now I'm just like, this is
Yeah.
it. Whatever. This is my house. It's messy. And having the time to spend with my other kids to do their bedtime routines. So I think reaching out for the help and naming what it is. So we've needed financial support in the end, and doing like a
Yeah.
GoFundMe or asking for, and it's
Sure.
nerve wracking, and it's that, are people going to judge us?
Yeah.
But people are here, they come from love, and if people can support in the ways that they can, they will. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that, because I think there's families right now who are probably listening to this who are maybe in the same situation,
Mhm.
who need some specific help from counselors, from
Yeah.
therapists, from services, or from their friends and family.
Yeah.
So I
And
do
I didn't
appreciate
get here in a day, right? It's been
that.
years and years of just trying to balance all of this with continuing to move forward and really, asking in a way that's supportive to you. There's so many options, so many different ways we can ask for help that's supportive to us. And even when I sent that request out for help, there are some people who don't understand, but I've realized that that's more on them than us,
Yes.
And so, yeah.
100%. And I do want to say that we are talking right now about mental health supports for parents and caregivers. For those of you who may be newer to your journey and may be experiencing post-adoption depression, that is a whole, we actually did a snack and chat on that itself. So what we can do is, after this session, I will link the post-adoption depression snack and chat, because I think it's also kind of pertains to what we're talking about. But I think there's different types of supports that are needed for families who might be in that position as well. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Um, so we've talked about some of the supports that we can get from outward and from friends and family. I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about how can Adopt for Life help parents and caregivers who might be struggling?
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm so thankful for Adopt for Life. We found it when our family was in a time of crisis. So, in one of those times in our life where I was tapped out, right? I had these certain skills, but we needed some outside support. So, and this peer-to-peer support to me has been invaluable. Just people who understand. I feel like I found a community where they understand. They understand our family, they understand our family situation, and they're living it right alongside of us. And that to me is, even if I ended there, I think that is really one of the incredible benefits that Adopt for Life has been for us. So when my RPL reached out to us, it was like this, big breath moment where I could just take a breath, right? And she listened to us without judgment, and she holded that space. And that was significant to me in my mental health wellness. And then, she sent me these like current relevant resources. I love to learn, but these webinars, these things that I could read in my own time. I think sometimes, when I'm struggling with my mental health, struggling in general, I don't even have the energy to look. I don't even really know where to look. I don't even know how to look. I don't even know. And it takes more energy. So just having someone who has listened and then supporting by, bringing these relevant resources was a huge help. And we at Adopt for Life have a plethora of resources. Like you said, there's so many different topics, and it covers, a gamut of a bunch of different areas, which is super helpful. And again, things you can watch on demand. So in your own time, when you have that capacity to do that. And it didn't stop there. She continued to reach out to me. And, the next sort of thing I noticed was this connection that started to happen. So connection with others in our community that could come alongside our family in that time. So like this, FASD worker, and this diagnosis started to emerge because of some of those connections that, our RPL had given to us. And then talking about financial supports, right? Connections with different organizations and supports in that way started to happen. And, she even sat on meetings with me, and that really helped. Like as an advocate, and I'm sure so many can relate. Sometimes, most times, I just want to be mom. I
Yes.
don't want to be case manager. I want to be mom. I want to express myself like mom. I want to show emotion like mom. I don't want to have to think about the different ways I have to say this to best represent our daughters. I just want to be mom. So when she sat beside me, I felt like I had more permission and just more space to be able to do that.
Mm.
And that was, and I know that even as an RPL, I've been able to write letters of support and advocacy. So that's something, an RPL can also do. And then I see the support on our social media private groups, like amazing. RPL can even send something out there anonymously on behalf of our caregivers. And who better to know the supports around us, mental health and otherwise, and those that are also living it. We actually found our private counselor through just some other caregivers suggestions, people that had helped them. So I think that's also an incredible opportunity we have here at Adopt for Life, and just that connection. Then of course there's our support groups, and just others who get it, who get us, who share similar lived experiences, again invaluable to me. And then we have our AFCA 2 supports, right? So we have our clinicians. And so those are, I think, some of the main ways. I hope I haven't missed anything, but some of the main ways that Adopt for Life has supported us as a family personally, and just how I've been able to as an RPL.
I think that, no, I think you've covered everything. I'm sure there's more, like there's mentoring and buddies, and
Yes,
it just
sure.
keeps going. But I think the main things that I picked up from what you were saying is that there's one person who gets it, who's willing to go along the journey with you, and it looks different for everybody. And the resources and supports are going to look different for everybody. I know for me with my job, as community engagement liaison, I help support the social media side of it. I can't tell you, I've been in this position for about 6.5 years now, and I am still in awe of how a parent can post on one of our closed private Facebook groups saying that they're going through a situation, it feels impossible, they're feeling hopeless or helpless, and how many comments they get saying, yep, I've been there.
Yeah.
Yes, and just validating,
Yeah.
like the resources and the support is a huge piece of it, but I think just being heard and being heard by a community who's been there and who's probably been through very similar situation is so therapeutic, is so healing in itself, that I think that the sense of community is just so impactful. And this is actually the reason why we were doing this snack and chat, is because we noticed there was a lot of parents reaching out saying, my mental health isn't good. And we're realizing that there's this need. So I think it's important to know that us as an organization, we're we're built around our community. So what it is, what these needs are, what we see as the gaps in support is where we try and fill it in. And
Right.
if we don't know the answers, we know someone who does, and which is why
Right.
it's great because we're such a team approach, right?
Yeah.
So it's fantastic that way. But yeah, um, Adopt for Life has helped me personally as well through a lot of situations in my life, and even as staff members, we still get that support as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so we talked about the different supports that are available that you've reached out to both with Adopt for Life and within your larger community. Um, if a parent thinks that they might be kind of struggling with their own mental health, what should their first steps be? Like if they finally did their fight, flight, and freeze, and they finally clued in that this is what's happening, what is the first thing they should be doing?
Well, I honestly would say be compassionate to yourself. I really haven't run into anyone yet who hasn't had needed mental health supports in one way or another. So being compassionate that it's okay. It's okay. The first thing that I did is reached out to my physician and talked to my physician about what I was experiencing. And then it was finding a counselor to meet my needs. And again, that can look different, right? So initially, I went with one counselor through my doctor's office. And then I wanted to find something a little bit different. So I think it's okay to identify, what is it that I'm needing? And that can change.
Yeah.
It's not like we have to be with this counselor or this person or this professional all the time. So, what are my needs right now? And I interviewed a few counselors before I settled in on one. And I had a couple of points of, where I wanted them to be. And that was important to me. And that's okay. And the counselors were okay with that. They were okay with that interview sort of thing and that conversation beforehand. Yeah, so that's where I would start being compassionate, right? And then just start reaching out for sure. Yeah.
I think it's important. The compassion piece is a hard one, I think, at
Yeah.
times. Um, and I think, just like you mentioned as well, if the overwhelm or if your mental health needs you to the point where you can't do that research,
Yeah.
finding a community to post. I don't know how many times people say, I'm looking for
Yeah.
an adoption competent or a trauma or a parent mental health therapist in this region. Like, just know that there are
Yeah.
so many resources out there, and sometimes you don't even know what might benefit you. I know families who have used like art therapy as parents as kind of a way to express their emotions. So there's sometimes even like that out of the box sort of supports
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
exist that you don't realize is actually great until you sort of start them as well.
Yeah. 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 I'm going to
Um,
put it out there. I want to do equine therapy. I really do.
oh, my son's been doing that
Okay.
for
Yeah.
5 or 6 years.
I
He
really do. I really
loves it.
do. Yeah.
He's a
I
different,
really,
you come in and you can just see everything
yeah.
just
Yeah.
relaxes, and he gets to do some pretty cool things. I'm a little bit scared of it.
Yeah.
But he gets
Well,
to
I don't
trot
need
and
to do cool things, Catherine. I just need to ride.
you never know. You never know. You might be like galloping around, but they do like forest walks and even
Um,
caring for the horses, which is part of
yeah.
his like therapeutic
Mm.
session, and feeding them. So, okay, you're gonna do that, and then we're gonna
Okay.
have you on in the summer for a snack and chat about equine therapy.
Oh, I threw it
So
out there.
it's
I threw it
live
out
now. So there we go.
there.
Now there's no taking that back. Um, so for parents, people are watching us again, either live or on replay. What advice would you like to give them for someone who might be needing help, who is watching right now?
Yeah. And we've talked about this. Really, it's that asking for help piece, right? And again, just doing that in a way that's honoring to them, I think is really important. And you've talked about, building that support network too, those that you can trust. If we're so funneled that we're needing that type of support
Yeah.
is really important. Just finding that safe place to reach out and reaching out in a way where you're ready to, in a way that you're able to in the moment. is really important. I think, Catherine, too, we wanted to mention, that Adopt for Life, we don't provide that therapeutic advice. I mean, you talked about that early, and we're not an emergency sort of service that, for emergencies, we're encouraging people to go to their local crisis or emergency services. But
Yes.
as, regional parent liaisons, we can come alongside others, our community in a crisis. And so just, putting it out there that that's part of our role, is to come alongside others and in our community and offering that support, sometimes just sharing it with someone that other can just sort of, what do you think about this resource? Or what do you think about that? Or what do you think, so
Yeah.
we're here. Yeah.
I agree. And I just want to share too, I know that we are wrapping up, but I mean, we've talked about resources and webinars, and I do want to share that these are accessible and they're open, mainly all open for anyone who might be watching this. So if you go onto our website at adoptforlife.com, you can see blogs that are written from families' perspectives that kind of share and validate different experiences. All of our webinars are up on our YouTube channel as well. So you can head there, and there's, like you said, a plethora of topics that we talk about. Polyvagal is actually one of our more active webinars, because it's something that I think impacts so many people. Our monthly snack and chats, and we also just launched a podcast as well that's focusing on story sharing and storytelling. And it just goes back to that sense of community that we are a part of and that we're continuing to grow and learn from. So I just think it's so important that if you are someone who needs help, I don't know if you've heard the quote, but it's okay to not be okay.
Mhm.
Know that you're not alone, and that everyone has experiences, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to say what's being offered isn't helpful right now. So like you
Mhm,
had said,
mhm.
doing that research
I
and
love that. Yeah.
finding what helps and asking those
Yeah.
hard questions. And it is hard to find adoption or trauma informed therapists more specifically. So if you are looking for those specific supports, the Adoption Council of Ontario has a list of specifically trained therapists. So whether that's for your child or even ourselves too, we can find that complex trauma affects our bonding and affects our relationships as well, and ultimately affects our mental health. So I just wanted to throw all those resources at you, but all of that can be found on our website. If you're looking for a specific resource as well and can't seem to find it, you can always email us at info@adoptforlife.com, and someone will get back to you because it's a highly monitored email. Cindy, you are awesome. I cannot wait to hear about how your your equestrian journey goes. Um,
Always wanted to, always. Yeah.
it's hard to be vulnerable and to share stories, and I just want to really share with you that I personally really appreciate you sharing this and sharing some of your experiences and part of your journey, because I know there's people out there who are on their own who may need to hear some of this right now. So I just really want to honor um, your ability to share that and to support others. And I think it's really amazing how it's kind of like a cycle. So Adopt for Life was there for you, and now you get to be there for other
Right.
families. A full circle here that we've got
Right.
to,
I
which is
know.
really cool.
Right.
Um, so everyone, again, thank you so much for watching and joining. If any questions come up, feel free to post them in the comments. Next month, I do want to share that our snack and chat is going to be on April 12th. Same time at 12:15, and we are talking about raising children with autism. So in April is, did I say May? No, April 12th. I thought I said May for a second. April 12th. April is Autism Awareness Month, so we are sharing a lot of information about that as well. So if you are raising a child on the autism spectrum, or you may be considering adopting a child who may be neurodiverse, then you definitely don't want to miss out. Cindy, once again, thank you so much. Everybody out there, I hope you're having a wonderful March break, and we will see you in April.
Thank you, Catherine.
Bye.